I read the term lyrical expressionism linked to your work in architecture.
Yes.
Yeah. How would you describe that?
So the easiest way to start talking about the architecture is a conversation I had about 15 years ago with a group of friends. And, people have some interesting views about Silicon Valley. But one of the things about Silicon Valley is there's really no significant architecture there. There's no there's no place there. And friends of mine were asking, why are the buildings in Silicon Valley so ugly? And I think I had a really smart-ass answer at the beginning. But later, I thought about it, and I think the next day, I was talking to them again, and I said, well, the thing about architecture that you may not realize is architects have not been allowed to design beautiful buildings in the last 50 years. And they said, isn't that absurd? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? And I said, you would think so, but we're not allowed. And it's an interesting concept because most people, when they think about it, they said, you know what, you're right. There aren't that many buildings that I enjoy or I connect to emotionally that are modern. I sort of, not that they're historicist oriented people, they like modern culture, they like modern life, but the architecture hasn't gone there with them. And turns out, I believe there were two things that happened in architecture kind of at the dawn of postmodernism. And one of them was Robert Montori wrote an excellent book called Complexity and Contradiction in Architecture. And in that, he started to talk about richness and expression and how things don't have to align and things can be quirky. The problem was, though, he said you needed to do this intellectually and not emotionally. So he cut out the part of it that could really resonate with people. And he was a very intellectual designer. And at the same time, in 1966, the Temptations made a song famous called Beauty is Only Skin Deep. And this concept of beauty is only skin deep changed the world in positive ways for so many people in the late 60s, in terms of body image, in terms of what's really important. It's like inner beauty versus outer beauty. But the problem was the architecture profession and to some degree the fine arts institutions reinterpreted that to mean that anything that was beautiful was superficial. So architects have been practicing this sort of minimalist modernism, and they oftentimes actually take the beauty or the prettiness out of their architecture in order to be taken seriously. So lyrical expressionism is a concept for me to sort of rebel against the notion that architecture should be emotionally meaningless. And so the idea of expressionism is forms that are exciting, that they're dynamic, that they engage you, and that lyrical means that there's a narrative that goes with it. And the narrative sometimes can be anthropomorphic. The building can kind of look a little bit like something, but oftentimes it's a natural form that just has this story that goes with the program and the purpose of the building.